Morning, everybody. Welcome to our live devotion for Tuesday morning, May 12th. Keith and Carr gets the prize for being the first in the chat room. Wendy, a close second. Good morning, Kim. Welcome, everybody. Andrew Simpson, welcome this morning. Claudia and Bob, by extension. There's my mom there. Good morning, everybody. So beautiful out here this morning. Janisa, I love it right after a rain. Everything smells so great. And there is so much activity out here this morning. It's crazy. Good morning, Lori. I've been praying for you. I hope your ankle is healing well and you've just been on my mind. Morning, everybody. So yeah, there's so much activity on mornings after a rain. There is a turkey gobbling down here to my right, like mirrored to you. It's to my, looks like I'm pointing to my left. It's actually to my right over here. There was a big commotion a minute ago where a squirrel was robbing a bird nest. And I know it's kind of a sad story, but that's what he was doing, or he or she. And the two birds that occupy that nest were just trying to get that squirrel away. And so there was a big ruckus going on up there. So lots of activity out here this morning on this beautiful morning all around me. Welcome, Lisa. Good to see you this morning. And another thing I noticed up here at this little stage area that have been doing this filming at is that, previously Dan Conley had come up and mowed this area that leads up to the stage, so that that's where I drive my pickup up here, and so I'm not walking through high grass and likely snakes and stuff to get to this stage. But then Bob Parkin came up and he weed-eated all around the stage. So I had this big open weed-eated area. So people are so awesome to take their time and come out and weed eat. Bob weed-eated all around the pump house over here and around our propane tank, up on the hillside and all this stuff. Mike and Joe, good morning. Suzanne and Daryl, good morning. I see you guys popping in here. Great day today. So good to be starting our day together in the Word and just acknowledging the blessings of God today. Good morning, Carmen. I hope you are doing well. Been praying for your dear sweet daughter. Hopefully she's recovering okay. I haven't heard any updates, but we've been praying for Katrina and the fact that she has COVID. So just been praying for Andrea. Good morning. Kathy, Lori Smalley, good morning. Welcome, everybody. If you have your Bibles, we're going to be in Psalm 42 today. Psalm 42. Sierra, good morning. Welcome, everybody. And so this morning, I don't really have a plan for any of these morning devotions. They just kind of happen. I guess that was kind of the simplicity approach that I took in pulling the trigger to do this every morning, and just to give you a glimpse of my process, and hopefully you also benefit from it in some way. Good morning, Lori. I see you there. Good morning to you, Steve Hauser, Steve and Andrea. Welcome this morning. We're in Psalm 42. So just going to give some thoughts on this psalm. It's a very familiar. Well, it's a familiar psalm to me because there was a song in the 80s written, according to this psalm, As the Deer Pants. So if you have your Bible, turn to Psalm 42, and this is the verses that probably are familiar to you. As the deer pants for flowing streams, so pants my soul for you, O God. And I can't help but think of the song we used to sing all the time back in the 80s. And the psalmist continues, my soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When shall I come and appear before God? And so these are all very pleasant words and a longing for the presence of God and But we have to keep in mind the context of the psalmist. The psalmist is not having a good day. He's saying these words because he is parched. He needs water. As the deer pants for a stream, he's not feeling totally close to God right now in this moment. He's longing for those days for when he would be a part of the procession that would go up to the gates of Jerusalem and enter into the city and into the temple courts and be a part of the worship experience. And he's not there now. He's feeling distant from that. So as much as we love those words, the deer pants for flowing streams, so my soul pants for you, oh God. It's not a place of closeness and comfort. It's describing a place of distance. I'm not there. I'm not in the presence of God yet. My soul is longing for this. So we can all identify with this, right? We can all identify with those days that we are feeling a little dry. Maybe our life experience is putting us under some pressure. Things aren't going quite the way we'd prefer. Things are kind of starting to get under our skin, and we're starting to react a little bit to it in ways that may be unhealthy. And so we need to kind of recenter, refocus ourselves. This is what Psalm 42 is doing. So the psalmist is not in a good place emotionally. So he is, first of all, reflecting on where his desire is ultimately going to be fulfilled. It's going to be in God, right? And so he's longing for a closeness with God. And again, talking about his current situation in verse 3, my tears have been my food day and night while they say to me all day long, where is your God? So the psalmist is always referring to these external voices that are saying, oh yeah, things aren't going for you great now. Where's your God now? The enemies who taunt and even though I don't have any external enemies that do that, I certainly have several internal enemies that taunt me. Is like, okay, yeah, I thought you were a Christian. I thought you were a pastor. How come you're having these feelings? Where's your faith now? Those inner feelings that kind of well up and taunt me a bit in my own mind. And so Psalm 42 is such a great psalm to recenter, refocus on addressing some of those negative feelings that come in, that negative unhealthy talk that enters our brain, that taunts us a little bit. And so I want to get to this verse in verse 5. So this is where the psalmist talks back to those negative thoughts and those negative emotions that he's feeling. Verse 5. Why are you downcast, O my soul? And why are you in turmoil within me? So here's the psalmist is doing this self-talk, right? He's having a conversation with his own heart, with his own mind, with his own soul. Why are you downcast, O my soul? Why are you in turmoil with me? Hope in God. So the psalmist speaks truth and directs his soul to God. Hope in God, for I shall again praise him, my salvation and my God. And he flexes back. My soul is downcast within me. Therefore, again, the self-talk, I'm redirecting myself to God. Therefore, I remember you from the land of Jordan and of Hermon and Mount Mizar. He's remembering the high places. He's remembering the mountaintops and where God intervened and God met him and God was present. Why are you downcast? Therefore, I'll remember you in the land of Jordan, Hermon, the Mount Mizar. Deep calls to deep as the roar of your waterfalls. All your breakers, your waves have gone over me. That's a negative picture, not a positive picture, by the way. By day, the Lord commands his steadfast love. So here he's redirecting his thoughts, his heart. By day, the Lord commands his steadfast love, and at night, his song is with me, a prayer to the God of my life. So I wanted to talk a little bit this morning. The psalmist is doing this in a poetic way. He's having a conversation with his soul. And when his soul is downcast, his soul is feeling distant from God. And we all experience that, right? We're feeling stressed, we're feeling some anxiety, we get these negative feelings in us, we start having this negative talk in our mind, that things are going wrong, they won't ever be right, why even try, because this day is going to end poorly, don't even talk to that person because they'll never see it your way, whatever that negative self-talk that we do. The psalmist is engaged here. He's engaged with his heart, he's engaged with his emotions, and he's having a conversation with them. And he is leading his heart with his mind, leading with his heart back to truth, back to God. Where is your hope? Place it in God. Remember the high points. Remember the where God has been present in your life. Remember his steadfast love. And therefore, he says, my soul will sing. Though he's not currently singing, though he's not currently feeling all the good feels that he wants to feel, he is directing his heart to that place of truth and positive connection with the reality that God isn't distant. God is present. God hasn't stopped expressing his love toward the psalmist. He is very present. His steadfast love endures forever. And so the psalmist goes through another cycle of this later in the psalm. We don't have time to read this, but if you read the whole psalm, he ends again, asks the question again, why are you downcast, O my soul? In God I place my hope. He does the same thing by the end of the psalm, even because as he processes these emotions. So I'm going to take this moment to talk about just the very practical tools of healthy self-talk that everybody should practice and that I practice very regularly. Let me just talk about emotions a bit from my own personal perspective. So my personality has always been one that views negative emotions as much more amplified than they actually are. I feel them very acutely. Even small senses of conflict within me or outside of me. And so from the standpoint even as a kid, I would try to create a peaceful existence within myself and with people around me. So if there's multiple people around me, I try to blend in. That was my way of creating peace, because I was very acutely aware of if one person's preference and my preference would be diverse, they weren't the same. My tendency as a kid and even as an adult is to kind of blend, to merge with the people's preferences around me. And so the problem then is that when you do that all the time, and I become very well honed at that, you fall asleep to your own emotions and what you are actually feeling. And because you don't like how that feels, you don't like those negative emotions, so you push them down and you kind of merge with everybody around you to create a peaceful existence. And that's just been my way, unwittingly. And it's been this last year during my sabbatical and so on, I began to wake up to some of the realities of this, because these things were really limiting my leadership, limiting my relationships, limiting how I viewed God. I didn't even know it. And those, when they started coming to the surface, when I'm talking about Psalm 42, why are you downcast, O my soul? Put your hope in God. My version of that I spoke to myself was, negative emotions that you're feeling are bad. They shouldn't be felt. And so numb out to them. Don't address them. Just mask them somehow. Escape by checking out or distancing yourself or becoming withdrawn. And that's not a healthy way to address it. So let me just take you through some steps of positive self-talk that I think are really helpful when you're feeling stressed, when you're feeling anxious, when you experience those negative emotions. And I do a series of steps, and Pastor Matthew actually on Sunday did his triple A response to negative emotions. And these actually fit really well with my, step routine to address stress and conflict within me. And so the first thing I do is when I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling those feelings of conflict, I'm learning to lean into them. Like, okay, don't just numb out to them, don't ignore them. But first of all, I prepare myself to address them by breathing. Breathe in, breathe out, kind of center yourself a bit. Relax some of the tension that I'm experiencing in my neck or my shoulders, and I feel this pressure building within me, and so I take deep breaths. And Martha, in fact, always knows when I'm stressed or feeling some sense of conflict because she knows I start breathing. I do take these long breaths, and Martha's like, "Oh, what's wrong? Are you stressed about something right now?" So she's learned that that's her cue, or a cue for her to have some insight in that I'm feeling some tension right now, and so I move from that sense of just recentering myself and kind of relaxing a bit, then to reconnecting with what am I feeling, or exactly the emotions that I'm feeling. So with Matthew's AAA response, this would be the first A, awareness, that you're just connecting. What is it that's going on right now? Why am I stressed? What's happening here? And you just allow yourself to feel these negative emotions. For me, this is a big step. Don't like feeling them, and so I would try to squash them however I could, either by escaping into some mind-numbing activity, watching some media, something on my phone, or watching a movie in those quiet. I couldn't fall asleep at night. My ritual at night to fall asleep was to watch some movie or YouTube video or something until I just couldn't stay awake anymore and I fell asleep, because I couldn't quiet my mind. I had such a hard time I didn't want to face any kind of negative thoughts in those quiet moments of falling asleep. And so I've learned, I've stopped doing that, and being able to just kind of recenter what is it that you're feeling and address it in a more healthy way. So first of all, awareness. That's your first AAA that Matthew talked about. I'm just talking about how I do it in my own way. So I breathe, I connect with my emotions, and then the third thing I do is begin to put words to my emotions. I articulate them. What is it? And this is, the first one of Matthew is awareness. And then, I wrote it down, so anchoring. So the next A for Matthew is anchoring. And so this is, for me, it's putting my emotions into words. And this is where I write in my journal. I write it out. It's so helpful to me to articulate what is it that you're feeling. What is the source of your anxiety? And you have to do this in a non-judgmental way. This is for me. I am so judgmental about my negative emotions. You shouldn't feel this way. Yeah, you're having a problem with that experience, but you know what? You should just say that's no big deal. You ought to be feeling some way else. And so Matthew's second A is anchoring. So awareness, anchoring for me is just putting my emotions into words. I write it down, I identify them. I allow my rational mind to begin to articulate what it is that I'm feeling. And then the third A is action, having a plan of action. And that's when I take what I write and I create, I shift toward, excuse me, what can I do about it? How do I want to move forward here? And so let me give you one example. I think this is going a little bit long today, but I'm wrapping up here. I've just taken this cue from the psalmist where he said, here's where I'm at. I began to connect with my emotions. I go from aware to anchoring, and he begins to articulate it. Why are you downcast, O my soul? And then he shifts toward a plan of action. I'm going to remember that God's steadfast love does not move. I'm going to focus on the days I used to go to the temple and how good the presence of God is. I'm going to shift my emotions. I'm going to get a plan so my soul won't remain downcast. So I breathe. This is my response. I breathe. I become aware of what's happening within me. I anchor myself, to use Matthew's A's, and I write out what I'm feeling, and then I move to a plan of action. And let me give you just the practical example. I don't think I brought my water bottle up here, but I got a tickle, so use me. Last Saturday, the day before Mother's Day, Martha had expressed the week previous that she wanted to do a project together. We've been doing several projects around the house during our, stay-at-home stuff, and Martha especially. So she's got this bug going of wanting to get through stuff and tackle projects. And so she goes, I would really want your help on Saturday. She said this earlier in the week. I want to get out in the garage, and I want to start going through stuff that we've neglected and get things in order. And to me, that sent off all kinds of bells and whistles in my soul. First of all, I feel so overwhelmed by my weeks these days because all the stuff I have to tackle. It's like the last thing I want to do on a Saturday, a potential day off, is to go do a bunch more stuff that I don't want to do, right? And I feel like, okay, this is where you need to be helpful to Martha and to join her in this process. It's a good thing we want to get through this stuff. So yes, we'll do that. But Saturday morning, I woke up, is the day of, and my anxiety, my anxiousness, my stress about the day is kind of going through the roof. Now, remember, my personality, even little things seem big, right? In negative emotions, they get amplified. And so I had to go through this step-by-step process. So what did I do? I identified what I was like, took some breaths, I identified what I was feeling, and then I started, and in a non-judgmental way. It's like, okay, you're just feeling what you're not what you should be, not what you ought to be, non-judgmental. You're like, if you were really a good husband, you would just be happy about this, you would be, you could make this really fun, and why aren't you making it fun? Non-judgmental. Just what are you feeling? So I just wrote out questions. I wrote out, in fact, I'll just read some of the things I wrote down. Let me get to the day. Okay, a few questions. I'm feeling anxious about starting something, a big project, and we won't stop. I mean, it won't be like we'll start it at 8 and we'll end at 4. We'll keep going. There's no end to it. So that created anxiety in me. It's like we don't have a stopping time. It's just going to keep going. I'm not saying rational or irrational, any of these. I'm just telling you, writing down my emotions. There'll be no end to this. Because there won't be any end to this, it will go on for days. This is, again, amplifying in my heart. You can laugh. It's okay. That I'm just telling you what I'm writing. And weeks. This will go on. This is not just a day project. And so I start asking questions. What do I need to let go of? What do I need to create any boundaries to set limits on how this affected me? Then I go to the plan of action. Here's my plan. Communicate have a conversation with Martha. What are her expectations, and be able to communicate my expectations. Oh, one other thing that I didn't write here, I wrote later, that I identified was part of my anxiety, is that I feared, I wrote it down somewhere, I'm not reading it, that we would get in an argument. That somehow during that day, Martha and I would just end up arguing, and I didn't want that. So anxiety was mounting. I'm writing all this down. And so I had to develop a plan. So the plan was, let's talk about, Claudia, you're saying, I completely understand. Yeah, you guys have been going through and getting ready to move. I'm sure we can connect on this. My plan was, first of all, have a conversation with Martha. What is our goals today? Let's clearly identify. What are your expectations? Let me communicate my expectations. Another plan I had was to remind myself that Martha's preferences are just as valuable as my preferences. First of all, that I don't have to have it my way. And second of all, that because Martha has a different preference in how we ought to do things, or what we ought to keep, or what we ought to throw away or put in yard sale, just because she has a different preference, that doesn't invalidate my preference. This is something I don't know how I latched onto this, but as a kid, in all of my life, I've had to undo this falsehood in my own life, that just because someone has a different opinion than you doesn't invalidate your opinion. You know, it's like you throw out an idea, hey, I think we should do it this way. Maybe Martha says, you know what, I think we should do it a different way. And my first emotional response is, well, you don't like my way? You don't think my way's good? You know, it has nothing to do with that. She just has a different opinion, and that's okay. I'm just being honest. Someone having a different preference doesn't invalidate my preference. So therefore, kind of release that potential conflict. And so with that, those kind of 3 steps in mind, you know, having a game plan, knowing what each other's expectations are, validating Martha's preferences as equally as important as mine, and thirdly, that the fact that she has a different preference than me doesn't invalidate my preference. That was just my simple game plan. And you know what? The day went great. We started at 8 a.m. We got a ton of stuff done. Honestly, we did not stop until 9:45 at night. Now, that was later than I would have preferred. I got a little grumpy at 9:45. I told Martha, I'm going to be in bed by 10. So I'm just letting you know, your help is going away. We've got to draw a line somewhere. And we did. It ended up being okay. But I'm just telling you, Psalm 42 and how the psalmist does the whole self-talk, has a conversation with his soul, is such a great model of the AAA response. Matthew, I'm acknowledging here awareness, anchoring, and action. Awareness, what am I feeling? What's going on here? For me, I have to take some deep breaths to kind of release the tension first, and then I get into awareness. Anchoring, I write down what is it that I'm feeling, then I develop a game plan that helps mitigate that and move forward in a healthy way. I can tell you an endless list of all the unhealthy ways that it bubbles out. You know, if I don't do this process, it bubbles out on other people, I withdraw, all these negative things that aren't helpful at all. So anyway, Psalm 42, that's my take on it in a very practical way today, to help us to redirect ourselves to truth, to lead, to do self-leadership, lead yourself into a positive plan of action when you're feeling negative emotions, stress, anxiety, you're feeling overwhelmed by your tasks, and so on. God's right there with you. He doesn't judge you for the emotions you're feeling. Don't judge yourself. Allow him to be a part of that process of re-anchoring into the hope that we have in God today. So bless you guys. I hope that you are enjoying this day, kind of a cooler, cloudy day, at least for now, and the beautiful smells that are associated with a recent rain. I love it all. Bless you guys today, and we'll see you tomorrow.